Hi, welcome to the Leadership During Crisis Online Summit series. Thank you for taking your time to watch these episodes. Please remember to subscribe at our YouTube channel. We will be releasing the episodes 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m.
I help people realize individually and in the corporate world that synchronicity is real.
I was just watching your video on your sharings in terms of your feelings and how you overcome some of the feelings that you had when you thought you had COVID-19. Would you care to share a little bit more on some of the lessons that you learned?
The biggest lesson, Janet, is I've been in this business a long time. I teach resilience, I teach managing crisis, etc., etc. And I thought I had this down, I got this handled. But I was shocked when I found out that my doctor wanted me to go to have a COVID-19 test. I thought he was just going to give me some cough syrup. And so the first lesson is, no matter how old you are, fear and anxiety stalks you and you don't know what your response will be. Because I really had that feeling of fear of, my God, what if I die? What if I give this to my family, etc., etc., etc. So that was my first lesson, is to remember that even if you think you've been in the business a long time and can cope with all of this and you teach this stuff, be prepared for what it will do to you and how it will make you feel.
Right. So how did the principles that you taught in your lessons help you through this episode?
Well, one of the first principles, because basically I think, Janet, the skills for facing any crisis are all about resilience. And the first thing that I learned, the principle, which I've taught many times, is don't avoid how it feels. If you are afraid, then face that fear, acknowledge that fear. So the first principle is to be aware of your own emotions. And linked very closely to that, I see a lot of people in crisis wanting to put a positive spin on everything immediately. And in this COVID crisis that we're going through, I see a lot of people saying, be positive, think the best. And I think we're only human. And it's human, even at my experience and my age, to be afraid. So principle number 2 is acknowledge the fear. Because only when you acknowledge it can you move out of denial into accepting the situation. So accept the situation, but be able to separate fact from fantasy. The reality is, although I thought, oh my God, what if I die? The fact is that a minute % of people die. But the fear that's in all of us goes to the worst situation. So very, very important, face the facts. It's only a small percentage of people that get serious. But once you've done that, we need to recognize that the mindsets still are there. And most of our mindsets of fear come from memories and old situations that you face. So being able to recognize and name the fear, like I said, my God, what if I might die? Or what if it gets really serious? The fact is it's not going to happen. And that fear comes from something in our bodily and physiological system called the survival impulse. All of us are built for survival, which activates fight or flight. But the problem is when we're in crisis, and in this COVID-19 crisis, if you continue to be in survival mode or mindset of fear, that's going to make it worse. So I always encourage people, and I did this with myself in this situation, recognize the old mindset and then pause. We human beings are the only animal who are able to choose their response. Most animals, fear, want to kill, whatever, they do it, it's reactive. Whereas we have that ability to pause and then choose our response. And that's one of the most crucial skills in a crisis. personal or business. Recognize the fear, understand if it's real. If it's not, then stop and choose your response. And that was crucial for me in this current situation, being in lockdown and fear for myself and fear whether my wife had caught it. It was crucial that I was able then to say, now let's choose what my response will be.
Right.
If you can master that, you can master crisis.
That's great. I think you have also shared that you teach these principles to teams, to leaders as well. How would you change these steps, or is it the same when you are a leader facing this particular crisis?
It's the same steps. For a long time, I've taught a program called Resilience Advantage, and I've also taught a program called Change Your Mind, both based on really well-researched models. And so it's the same. When a team or a leader of a team is going through crisis, the automatic response of your team will be fear and anxiety. And you've got to help people just express that. I see lots of leaders in change situations try to kind of say to the team, no negative talk. Not true. If people are afraid, you've got to allow them to express that fear. Once that's done, and I take teams through this process many times all over the world, I've worked in 61 countries doing programs like this, is then say, okay, what values or behaviors do we now want? Because we need to move through this crisis. What behaviors do I want in COVID-19? In my personal case, it's exactly the same in teams. And you get the team and the organization to agree on the ways in which they're going to behave with each other. And crucial as well is to have a mission linked to that. Help the team get together on what is it they want to do in this crisis.
Dr. Philip, the key is a lot of us, when we are in a fear mode, we spiral downwards and we can't really recognize and stop it. How do you recognize the different phases and get yourself out of it?
That's a great question, Janet, because so often in a crisis, we're stuck in fear, thoughts that go round and round and round and round. And you need to be able to move beyond that. So what I do, and I've done this for many years, is number one, get the person to begin to breathe deeply. Whether it's a group or whether it's an individual, I say to them, just start the process of breathing deeply. And even when the thoughts still come, I say, still keep on breathing deeply. When you breathe in calm, and imagine when you breathe out, you are breathing out all of the fear and anxiety and constant words that go on. That will take a while, a few minutes at least. But once they are there in a more calm state, I ask people just to rest there for a period of time. Because once you rest there, you can then be separate from the thoughts. And remember, the thoughts are just old neural pathways in the brain, memories of the past. And I literally say to people, look at the thought you have of fear and say to that thought, this is probably step 3, say to that thought, thank you for serving me in the past. I no longer need you. And imagine that thought really dissipating and dissolving. So you now are in that magical space when you can create something new. So I get either individuals or teams to say, what is it now you need to get through this crisis going forward? Could be a feeling, could be an attitude, whatever it is. And I get people to imagine that new thought. And in the same way that they flooded their body with calmness to enable slowly but surely the fearful feeling to go, then they have the new thought, which they're also breathing in. And very important, this is all breathing which goes to the heart. The HeartMath Institute, which designed this whole process over many years, breathe to the heart because the heart is central to impacting the whole physiology. So as you breathe to the heart, and these are very specific techniques, you imagine the new positive feeling that you've thought about flooding the whole body. you can see that what we're talking about is a physiology here. You've had thoughts going all around you. You need to stop that process and then begin to have thoughts that flood the body. And once you feel that within yourself, then you send it to whatever project that you need to do well, a person you're worried about. For me, when I did this process recently, I was fearful of my wife being affected if I got COVID-19. So I was sending to her all sorts of positive, strong emotion and visual images, imagining her well, imagining her in vibrant health. If it's a project, then imagining the project going really, really well. And then once that is done, the final process that we'll often go through is that in that state of what we call heart coherence, so all these steps are about heart coherence, is what new innovative idea do you have to deal with the current crisis that you're facing? And so it's about a 5-step process. Because so much of what people teach, Shanna, about this is good intellectual stuff. The interesting fact is that 85% of change programs fail because they don't enable the individual to let go of old mindsets and build a new mindset. And so our process is very specific to beginning to get yourself individually, if it's a personal crisis, or the whole team, to replace mindsets with new mindsets. And we don't just intellectually say, oh, change your mindset. It's no good. If somebody's in fear, we've got to hold their hand through steps that will help them get there. It doesn't just take one time. It's something that has to be constantly practiced. Do you think that when I was waiting for my COVID results, one time only, okay, I'm not any fearful any longer of my wife getting this? I had to do it hundreds of times probably. So it's a question of constant practice, but we give people a cheat sheet that enables them to move through that process. Best learning and the best training is when people have an emotional experience that touches their life in enabling them to move forward. So any program I do is all about practical techniques to help you go forward.